What is up, everybody? This is Kane with the Days Pirates, Captain of the Days Pirates, Gear 5 Productions. Pretty excited to be throwing this video together. I'm going to try not to take too long, but as you see, kind of made a last-minute decision to go to the Peoria Regional this past weekend in Illinois. So was very last minute to go to that. Obviously playing your boy RP Luffy. But we'll kind of jump right into it. I really didn't even plan to go until about Friday. And we kind of were thinking with the last minute registration, I could potentially get in. And at that point, we figured we would just drive a little bit there because it's about 2.5 hours from where I live. So we drove partially there, registered at 7 a.m., and then registered our deck list real quick and walked over or drove another 2 hours to the convention center, got there right before 10, basically walked into the main room and they had pairings being announced. So with that, kind of was a little bit on edge. I was like real cold walking into the convention center, jumped right into it. And at the end of the day, of course, I'm playing RP Luffy, so I'm pretty comfortable on the deck. I'm going to run through the list that I end up bringing real quick, and then we'll kind of go through the games. And if you want to skip to the end, my overall record will be there. But I'm going to kind of progress through the day and talk a little bit more about it. Me and my buddy Teddy went down there for the day, and yeah, was a pretty good time. So RP Luffy, of course. Some changes that I made going into this event. I wanted to kind of lean back into my counter events because was starting to cut down on those a little bit because my locals are a little bit more familiar with them. But kind of to that end, they were phenomenal, especially again when people aren't really expecting them and people aren't familiar with RP Luffy as it begins with, and then having this extra utility on their turn was largely disruptive throughout the day. So just real quick through the event package here, your pitch counter. Your 0 cost, throw a card for a 3k counter to your leader or character. Purple one has the best trigger for us. It lets you ramp if you take it early. Diablo Jambe makes you one of your Straw Hats unblockable. Phenomenal finisher. 1 cost for that. Radical Beam, again, kind of a mainstay of the deck. 1 cost 4k counter. It's kind of a 2-for-1 counter when you have 2 or less life, which obviously we get down to pretty quickly. RP Luffy, I hope by now, 6,000 leader. It lets you ramp when you're at 8 or 9 or 0 down. And it has 3 life to accommodate for the 6k leader. Last 2 counter events. Slow Beam Sword, I did run 2 of them. The Don -1, 2 cost counter to go 2k to your leader and rest any character. So it can be big or a blocker, and it's huge. And then there's no way you could defeat me 3 cost KO base 6k or less. Someone had to check a ruling on this because they had never seen it before. Then obviously Nami, again, kind of one of the few mainstays that I really believe within the deck. 4 Nami's just is so good. That lets you search the top 5 for Straw Hats. And we have well over 20 Straw Hats, so I can't remember the last time I whiffed on a Nami. Otama. This is kind of a flex 2K slot. A lot of people float between 4 to 8 2Ks. I've been liking 6. It's felt very comfortable for me. So Otama, I have over Franosuke right now, just for a little bit of potential combo with Robin and or Newgate. Realistically, Franosuke just wasn't coming up for me either. I think especially with Rayleigh coming in 08, Otama is good here for now. But obviously Black Maria enters the conversation at that point too. And Sanji is locked in. So I don't know. We'll see. Nico Robin. Actually, I guess real quick, I'll talk about Sanji because that's my other 2Ks. That is Straw Hat searchable. It's a 6 cost, 6k blocker. But if you have 2 less Don than your opponent, then it's only a 3 cost blocker. So with Gear 5, that's obviously a main reset, and then other ways I can get it online as well for a double blocker play or other things. Then Robin, this is kind of a tech choice right now. It's great in Law, it's great into Lucci, and it's very good into Bonnie as well. And then beyond that, because I have this Ein support with her, she's really just a remove anything, and now that's why I'm up to 3 of her, because she's searchable. She's a 1K, so I just can get rid of it if I have multiple or don't need it. And then with Ein is kind of a mid-game threat, but realistically, this is kind of a removal piece. It's a 7-cost body, 6K. It's a little bit understated with no counter, which bums me out still. But it does set one of your opponent's characters' power to 0. So very strong lines are like Ein something that's rested, then swing a 2K Nami into it, and they have to give you 2 cards to protect it, and they're not going to. So Ein with Robin is an 8-cost pop anything, which is phenomenal. And then Ein also with Newgate. Obviously, you got to stick the Newgate and then Ein the following turn, but that's a 9-cost KO anything, swing 12K. We'll get to Newgate in a second. But yeah, with her, Newgate followed by Ein is also a 2-turn KO of anything. So a lot of flexibility. Basically, I play Ein as a more flexible Shanks. I am looking at going back up in Shanks, but I don't know. I don't know. It depends on where the meta goes post ban list. But for now, Ein's going to be in until through my treasure cups this next week. For my ramp package, I'm on 9 total ramp cards. So 3 cost Zorojuro. I think 3 is plenty. It's searchable by Nami. It's a 4K, 3 cost, 1K counter. And when you attack, if you have 3 or less life, which we always do, you ramp. So great staple of the deck, but I think 4 is just too many. You don't need it. I don't ever want to play this after turn 2. Like I think I've played it after turn 2 once in the past however many months. Mr. 2, this is again one of the very few true 4-ofs I think in the deck. On play, you get an active Don. It's a 1K counter, and when attacking, it copies the power of one of your opponent's characters. So it's just massive. Into a Nell, it's just such a good card. Sometimes it just gets immediately removed, but it already ramped. So it ramped you, and then it can be a threat. It can demand an answer that they wouldn't really want to put into a 4-cost usually. And then my other ramper, Miss All Sunday. On play, get arrested Don. If you have 6 or more Don, draw a card. She has no counter. She's a 5-cost 5K. So a little bit of a bummer that she's no counter, but the trigger here does also let you play her out of life, so that can come up later. But just her being able to cycle a card is so important, and I just don't like the other options that have counter or LPD as much. It's just, I don't know. I think this card stays into at least 09, but I don't know. Queen. I've been smack talking Queen a lot to be jumping back on it, but for a 10-round event, I kind of thought the little extra piece of consistency might be nice over having, just a law to throw into the mid game. And actually coming out of this event, I am going to keep the 2 queens in for now. I'm still kind of going back and forth. I feel like with law, I've been jamming it in the mid game a lot and ripping cards, but not really materially pushing my game forward still when I make that play. So having just a queen for a late game cycle, I think might still just be stronger until we get Gum Gum Giant. I think this deck structurally changes quite a bit in 09. But that's kind of all the utility 2Ks and events. So now pushing into our top end and threats. Zoro, 6-cost 7K banish. So if I hit my opponent, that card goes straight to trash instead of in their hand. It's a 1K counter. Again, searchable by Nami. 1K counter, so if you ever don't need it, you can pitch it. Love having this little mid-game threat with a counter. Again, this package probably changes quite a bit in the next set or two with the new ST10 stuff, but we'll see. I am going to go up to a third one of these going into my store treasure cups. I expect to see a lot of Enel and just some other things I want to continue to run into. Then with our kind of core RP Luffy top end right now until things start to get a little bit more varying in the next set or two. 7-cost Kid, when it on play and when attacking, -1 Don to make your leader plus 1,000 until your next turn. So in this case, making him a 7K leader. 8K, just such a great body, great card. The going second, we want to go Mr. 2 into Kid basically in every single matchup. Hypothetically against Enel, Azoro's pretty good, but Kid's great always. Then Dragon, 8-cost rush on play, give 2 rested Don to a leader or character. very flexible, very aggressive threat. This card is massive, and then it's a 9k body for your opponents to deal with. I want to go up another one of these as well too. So I'm going to talk about where I'm going to go into the next week as well. But yeah, finishing out with our last two. Newgate on play, you get plus 2k to your leader till start your next turn, so making Luffy a 8k leader. And then he has Don X2, so I'd put 2 Don on him when he's attacking, KO one of your opponents 3k or less. So again, play him, get your 8k leader, wall up for a turn. Then your opponent does whatever. They probably develop board because they don't want to invest into swinging 8,000 into your leader. And then you follow it up with Ein, put 2 onto Newgate, and swing into their leader and KO, a blocker or KO a threat or whatever. And then Luffy, our Gear 5 staple, on play, Don -10, bottom all your characters, get that extra turn, that big time walk that's just so strong and game changing. So kind of some of the changes going into today, we're just swapping laws for queens and going back up to my counter package. Coming out of this event and going into league play tonight, because I'm recording this on Tuesday, I am going to go -1 Radical Beam and -1 Slow Beam Sword. Go 1 more Zoro, 1 more Dragon. I know it sounds a little weird cutting 1 Radical Beam when everyone considers that a staple. But kind of 2 things at play with that is the fact that it's the threat of Radical Beam is just as good as having Radical Beam a lot of the times. Like if you have 4 cards in hand and 1 Don open, they're always going to assume you have the Radical Beam, always. Obviously, if they have a Gecko, there's no reason for them not to swing 9k or something like that. So, they're not going to not swing into you at all. But realistically speaking, the better players especially are going to play around that all day. And I've seen some people in the Discord that are down to 3 Radical Beams. I think with Gum Gum Giant, we'll probably do 3 of those in the long run is where I expect to be. But yeah, I'm going to cut 1 Radical Beam and 1 Slow Beam Sword and go 1 Dragon, 1 Zoro just to kind of round out my curve. I've been trying to go up in 1Ks. That was kind of the move with getting Robin and Zoro into the threats and removal package. I think post-ban list, Robin, Ein package is less necessary. But if my locals have a ton of Bonnies still, I'll probably stay into some capacity. So that's the deck list. Like I said, we kind of registered last minute. We're excited. We're running into round 1. I'm freezing walking into the hall. I sit down and I have an NL. I'm like, all right. He's been playing NL for a while, I guess. He played at Nationals last year. And yeah, we're kind of getting right into it. I was like, all right, I was kind of hoping not to see Bonnie. I was really hoping not to see Bonnie. Kind of didn't want to see Nell either, but here we are. So I win the die roll, go second. On turn 2, he swings into me. I take that swing so that I can play my Zoro Juro on my 4 Don turn instead of playing the Mr. 2 at that curve because I wanted to A, protect myself from a Gadatsu, and B, swing in a little bit more aggressively. So play that Zoro Juro. Actually, when I take that life, it's a slow beam sword. So turn 2, I'm at 5 Don already. I play the Zoro Juro and swing 7k, take his second life because he flomped before. So he's down to 2 life at this point. At this point, I leave 1 Don open for a Radical Beam after playing the Zoro Juro because I had the 5, which was great. He plays an Onami and swings Banish Leader into me. Got to Radical Beam out of that, protect myself there. Then I swing Zoro Juro for 5k, Leader Swing, and then I think my Leader Swing was 7k that turn. And he counters out of 1 of them, goes down to 1 life. I play 2 Mr. 2s and pass the turn. The 2 Mr. 2s going into his 7 Don turn, I feel incredible because I'm like, if he plays any threat, I just get to go double Mr. 2 swings into him, and I had a dragon in hand, so I'm ready to go. So Kingdom comes the 1 Mr. 2 and swings into me. I counter out. Then I go 8k leader, swing into him, and he takes that swing and, triggers his leader effect, obviously, getting an additional life because the Nell is fun, fair, and balanced. And I just slam a dragon and swing 11k into his leader, and he takes that down to 0 life. He goes to his 9 Don turn, doesn't have a heal. He goes 16k swing into Dragon to remove it, and I just see that he's at 0 life with, I think, like 8 cards in hand, and I just go 16k leader in, and he does not have the counter. So very tight game. Felt amazing to kill an NL before he even gets to 10 Don. But yeah, got that out of the way. Was pretty happy coming out of round 1. Oh yeah, also real quick, just with the size of this event, there's about 800 people in total. So it's supposed to be 10 rounds of Swiss. Basically, X1 and some favorable X2s could make day 2, which is a top 32 cut. Round 2, I get Law, and it's actually someone that I've seen around at locals or shops around me before, so a little bit bummed out about some friendly fire early on. But I sit down with Law. I decided to go second. And I went Mr. 2 into Kid, and he removed the Kid, and then I was able to go. I top decked the second Kid to keep at that 7k leader. I already revealed a Jambe and was able to take him down to 0 life, so he played a blocker kind of knowing he was more or less done for. But then I top decked a Gear 5 just to have the absolute, a secured, confident 100% win. So felt pretty good. Not great that it was a friendly fire, but again, Anel and Law the first 2 rounds, I'm feeling pretty happy, and my crewmate Teddy at this point too is 2-0 against the same matchup, so it was pretty fun. Round 3, another RP Law. Sit down, I think I'm at table 40 something at this point, and I'm pretty hyped up being 2-0 already. I'm Mulligan going. I think I went second here, and my hand was terrible. I had bricks. I wasn't really able to protect myself on turn 2 when he swung 8k leader. He put me down to 2 life on turn 2. Obviously in Kid and Killer range. So I'm kind of feeling a little bit on edge about that potentially. His turn 3 he plays 2 Porsche, and among that he does play a Chopper and a Mr. 2. So he gets some of that Don back, but he does, from that point, continue to activate leader while I play a 7-cost Kid. And he's just so low on Don that he just can't effectively threaten me out. I think on the turn before it ended, it was still very close. The turn before it ended, he had a Kid and Killer. No, it was 2 turns before. He used a Kid and Killer leader effect and swung 8k, and I used my KO counter event to KO the Kid and Killer. And then I was able to threaten out his board and blockers and, kind of control him from there, because I think the Kid and Killer put him down to 1 or 2 Don. And then he went up to 3. The next turn was 1 Don. Then he went up to 3 the next turn. Actually, after he activated his leader, he had no Don left. He was very, very tight trying to pressure me out. But I was able to kind of hold on. And that KO event on his turn was huge. So now, 3-0, 1 NL, 2 Laws. We're ecstatic going into round 4. Then we get a Lucci. This Lucci game, just a little bit frustrating. They answered my ramp early. I didn't really get to protect my life effectively. I mulliganed into an okay hand. I said I got my ramp. They answered it. Not really any counter, so I had to take some 6k swings a little bit early. Even with those draws, I didn't really get the action that I needed. I played a Gear 5 as soon as I got to 10 Don, just because I literally had nothing on board and nothing else to do. And even with that, I still kind of almost pushed through. He played a Gecko after my Gear 5 turn. But then the kind of following turn, I go to, the 8 Don turn with Gear 5 and leader effect and all that. That's 8 Don active. And I was kind of having to make a decision between pressuring his life and maybe just trying to play a queen and wall up for a turn. I didn't feel great about walling up for a turn because obviously it's Lucci. And with that, the line was he had a Rebecca on board and I had my Gear 5 and my leader swing, and he had 1 life. So I had an opportunity to swing in. I had 1 Jambe. So with that 8 Don, I put 3 on my leader and swung 9 into his life because I knew he had a Rebecca on board, 4 cards in hand, and 1 life. And I knew 2 of his cards were 2Ks. So I figured if he can't counter out of this, or if he doesn't want to counter out of this, he will take this life so that he can block the Gear 5 swing. And I had Jambé to try and push through that. Obviously, he played around the Jambé, and I don't even know if he really intentionally did that. I didn't ask him about it, but and he blocked with the Rebecca that swing. And I had then 5 down left over to play a queen and cycle some cards and try and wall up a little bit. I did play the queen, but I just didn't really have enough, and he removed the queen that following turn anyways. Had I just left some more down up, I could have probably walled up with some counter events a little bit more effectively. But I still don't feel great about my board position going into that next turn, and it was just brutal. So I kind of made the play to try and make him have it, and he played it well. So kind of had to take those. But yeah, Lucci's good. So in round 5, we're now 3-1, and we run right into another no. I'm like, alrighty. With this, he gets to play an early Shirahoshi, and I wasn't really quite able to pressure him enough with it, and I couldn't quite get a window past it either. I tried to kind of rush him down the way that I rushed down the first no, but I didn't quite have the density of threats in my hand to effectively do that. I mean, I still pressured him, but he saw, like I said, you see in the text, he saw 3 of his Kingdom Comes, 4 Yamatos, 2 Aces, and a Beige Trigger just to really drill in the one turn that I was trying to make a play. So I think with that, there's a lot of back and forth with Enel about whether or not you starve them as a Luffy or you try to rush them down as Luffy. I think it really does depend on your hand construction, because either one can be punished by the way that your opponent draws, which is a kind of a shame. But I don't know. I think this is something I'm going to continue to track and talk about. My locals don't have a ton of Enel, but I expect to have some more in the store treasure cups. But yeah, this game was just a little bit frustrating. Kind of felt like I just lost more to the leader than like any piloting on either side. It just is what it is, I guess. So at this point, I'm 3-2. Still have a chance to really press for top 64. I am looking at my breakers, like some of the people that I've played already, to see if I could get into top 32 as next 2. Wasn't feeling too great about that with what I was seeing already. But I was still hopeful for at least a top 64. But I am quite frustrated at this point, getting swamped by a no like that. Round 6. This actually guy, I think his name was Ali Ansari, or near that. This guy basically saved my day mentally. he was just extremely friendly. He was like he had like Play-Doh in his backpack and some other like little fidgets or something that he was handing out. And he was just super friendly. I think we may have been annoying some of the people next to us because we were kind of just chatting through our whole game. So this guy, if you're seeing this, I appreciate you, Ali. We definitely kind of saved the day here. But yeah, we had a pretty fun game. A lot of back and forth. He had an early stage. He was removing things, swinging back and forth. There was one turn where he could have just gone for it, and I think I bluffed a Radical Beam, and I had a few cards in hand, so he just kind of played to the board just one more turn, and that was enough for me to be able to push it through. But yeah, just a very fun game, good game, and like I said, just kind of it was a nice mental reset when I was starting to get a little bit frustrated. Round 7, another pretty nice guy and a fun matchup. I had never seen a purple Luffy. We run into a purple Luffy in round 7 of regionals, and when I'm X2 of all things. So kind of funny. I won the die roll. Figure I want to out aggro him here. I think this is a race. I don't really see any other way around it. I was able to ramp directly into a kid, and then he was able to kind of go wide. But I was able to hit some early hits on him, so then he was pressured because he was lower on life to go all in on me. And within that line, he swung into my 7K leader 4 times. 3 times we were with 8K, and I was a little bit short on 2K, so I barely got out. In the last one, I was holding up. I had a Radical Beam or my KO counter. And if he swings at me for 7k with his leader, I only need a 1k to get out of it, but he has a blocker up. Or he can swing 8k with his blocker. I was holding up the KO counter event in case he went 7k with his leader. I would be able to 1k and KO his blocker, absolutely securing me the win no matter how he plays this. But then he did go the 8k swing with the blocker, trying to pressure out the fact that he noticed I didn't really have a lot of 2Ks, or I just took some 8k swings this turn. And with that, I swing into him, and he was able to, or he swung into me for 8k. I KO'd it. We actually had to double check. He wanted to double check the ruling that attack did in fact stop, which is it does. But obviously, I was like, for sure, call it, judge. The judge team is your friend. If you're not a dick or you're not breaking the rules, the judge team is your friend. Ask. There's two things that happened, or one thing that happened that I probably should have spoken up about, but it doesn't matter. We're neither here nor there. Didn't actually factor into any of my games. It was just something that I heard from another game, but I'm not gonna drag anything through that. So now at this point, I'm 5-2 going into round 8. I'm ecstatic. We're still in the running. Couple rounds to go. Let's finish strong. I run into Black Yellow Luffy. I'm hyped. I'm like, this is supposed to be my free matchup. You might notice that there's an L here. I did not see that coming either. So this game was insanely close. He won the die roll. He got to go second. I get to ramp. I'm pressuring him with a dragon. My plan is to just go dragon, and really plan on just trying to kill him outright. I figured when I took him down with the first dragon that if he did use his leader effect, then I'd have a 9k body and be able to go 9k, 9k, 10k or something like that with leader and 2 dragons. With that, it was he was able to answer the dragon while going into that 14k. He was able to answer that dragon and then go to a 9k leader in the same turn. And realistically, he's at 0 life with a Sabo, and I could just go all in Jambé 15 and see what he has. He has 7 cards in hand. I check his trash. He's played 0 2Ks, no 2Ks at all. The 2 cards that he trashed off of the Sabo that he played was a 1K and a counter. So my assumption is he's got to have 6 counters in a Gecko, or maybe 5 counters in a Gecko. And the fact that I had seen 0 2Ks, and I know stock Black Yellow is on at least 8, but really more like 10 to 12 2Ks. There's just like no way to me that he had 0 2Ks through all of this action and all of this game. So I play a little bit more defensively. I play a Nami looking for a Gear 5 setup for the following turn. Instead of finding a Gear 5, I find my second Jambé. I almost wanted to fake whiff on that because I didn't want to show my opponent that I got a Jambé. But I did end up taking it because there was literally nothing else. And then I played a 7-cost kid and left open some counters to kind of threaten in case he did try to push back on me. So with that, he did end up setting up a Gecko with an Ivankov and one of the kids. So he's a 7k leader with 1 life and 2 blockers. And even with a Jambé and a kid on board, it just wasn't enough to be able to push through. And at that point, he's able to get me back on the clapback. And, afterwards, me and him were talking. He was like, honestly, he said, you played it perfectly. You can't count on, like, that crackback. If I just go 15, I lose every single time to 1 2K in the top 20 cards of his deck. Like, it's just so not really likely. But at the same time, looking at it, if I don't force cards out of his hands there's no way for me to realistically win. So I kind of want to break this down a little bit more because this was the decision, right, that takes me out of top 64 was to decide not to go for that, which, again, in the moment, we both say statistically is right, but I've been forcing it all day. And at the end of the day, you kind of got to use that plot armor to get to the top cuts, I think, sometimes. So I have a kind of a follow-up kind of slide and discussion here around this. So they had 7 cards in hand. So again, like I said, I'm kind of assuming either 1 Gecko and 6 counters or 2 Geckos and 5 counters. He has even one 2K, I'm probably cooked. If I see even like one or two 2Ks in his trash at this point, like he played them earlier in the game or anything like that, I probably would have gone for that still. Uh, then I had to kind of weigh this out though, right? Because again, it's still rather likely that he has a 2K. And if he has a 2K, he just counters out, draws, plays Gecko, gets life, and goes. Or at least that's what I'm thinking. So in the turn that I did end up making, I left open Don threatening two radical beams. I don't know if I needed to threaten two radical beams to stop him from going all in, but one may have done the job. Um, so let's say hypothetically though that I still decided to leave two up for that. So then in that case, I would be going Jambe all in on Don would put me at a 13K leader. If I do that, he or if I do decide to rip cards and rip go Jambe 13K, he's forced to counter. He has to go 5 1Ks. Again, that's now I know that he has no 2Ks. If he has more 2Ks, this math gets screwed too. Um, so if he drops 5 1Ks, he draws a card for a turn. He has 3 cards in hand. He still activates his leader effect by pitching the Ivankov like he did before. Plays a Gecko and has 1 card in hand. If he has 1 card in hand, there's no way for me to win at this position because then he has a 7K leader. My Gear 5 swings would be before I would play Gear 5 and swing 7K. He 1Ks, or assuming that he draws a 1K, that would be the deciding factor. If he drew another brick, which I probably can't really count on that at this point, probably a 2K that he drew off the top, I can't remember now, but if he draws no counter, then we get there that following turn because he can't counter out of that 7K swing with my Gear 5. So that's, if we do all this math, if we know he has no 2Ks and he draws no counter, then we're good. So realistically, if I left one radical beam bluffed, swung 14K Jambe into him, and he counters down, he would have everything. He would only have a Gecko left in hand. He would draw. He'd have to pitch the card he draws to activate his leader, and then he would play his Gecko and he'd have no cards in hand. And from that line, a Gear 5 would successfully get me the game. But that is so specific. Yet again, he's like roughly 20 cards deep in his deck, if not more at this point. And you're telling me he's seen 0 2Ks. I don't know. I still think I made the statistically right play. Maybe at a locals, I think that's the right play still. In a regional, I think next time just make him have it because I've been thinking about this for the last 3 days and it's driving me crazy. But I don't know. That's a tough decision, but I've been making them have it all day and they haven't had it. So I think I maybe should have. But yeah, at this point now we've dropped to 5-3 and we're trying to fight for another Nika Don through the last couple rounds here. Now we get another Black Yellow Luffy. I'm like, all right, redemption arc. Just kidding. Similar to my round 4 match against Lucci, kind of just some awkward swings early that I kind of had to take another life or two than I would have liked to. And then I didn't draw the proper defense into the late game. And I didn't draw any Jambes or any Gear 5s, and he played 2 Gecko Morias. I don't know. A little bit frustrating. High rolls happen. These are supposed to be my matchups. If you told me before regional that I would be 2-0 against Law and 0-2 against Black Yellow Luffy, I probably would have laughed at you. But here we are. So maybe I do need to rep this matchup a tiny bit more. I know the deck's going to be S tier going into the next set of events, but yeah, this one's supposed to be mine. It's pretty frustrating to get double Moria, and I did make one misplay. I did play a Radical Beam when I still had 3 life, and that kind of hurt my game plan quite a bit. But yeah, I don't know. It was just a brutal one. Two Morias and the whole shebang. Again, this one is maybe I should have held back and played a little bit more defensively to accrue more threats before going in on his life. But realistically, he's playing the Kuzan build, And that build, I think, punishes that plan for me specifically very bad. So I'm not sure. Well, I haven't played that matchup specifically. I haven't played against the Kuzan build very much. So now we're 5-4, and we're just fighting to go positive. And we get one more Lucci. I sit down. He wins the die roll. Obviously chooses to go second. He plays turn 1 stage. And I go, oh, this is how my day ends. And he kind of chuckles. And then, yeah, at the end of the game, he was like, yeah, that card's really broken. I don't want it to go per se, but I'm not mad either, or something like that. Then I was like, yeah, sometimes you'd rather misplay. I just kind of got beat up on to end my tournament here. So, I mean, that was the day. I ended up finishing 5-5, 310th. So I did still get a Nika down, Sun God down. Might be putting together a second set of those for Purple Black Luffy coming around. But yeah, overall the matchups 1 and 2 against Lucci. Yeah, stage is pretty tough. I probably should have gone 0-3 against Lucci realistically with them all hitting stages, but with no stage, it's much easier for me, or they have to high roll a lot harder. Anel 1-1. I can't be too mad about that. I was kind of hoping to dodge Anel and Bonnie, but I dodged Bonnie, so I got to take those. And again, just blitzing him down. And I probably could have played that second matchup a little bit better, but man, did he just see everything. Law, yeah, it's supposed to be a matchup I relatively am favored in, but their high roll still beat me up pretty bad. So was pretty happy to pull that off. And then 0-2 against ST10 Luffy just breaks my heart. That's supposed to be the free wins. Like, that was supposed to be all right, go next. And just the way those games played out, just such a shame. That 15K swing's been haunting me. But then, yeah, one purple Luffy. Ton of fun. Hope to see some more of that matchup with ST10 out. Probably beat me a little bit more with that support. But, yeah, I don't know. I had to give myself some grace. It's my first time going more than 6 rounds at an event ever. So got to take it for what it was. It was exhausting. The last couple of rounds definitely started to wear on me, especially after losing in round 8 to that Black Yellow Luffy. But yeah, just a phenomenal day. Met some great people. Had a ton of fun. Definitely going to try and do some more of these. But yeah, that's what I got for you guys today. League play tonight and video coming later this week.